Good evening, this is the Roundtable, as you know, 10 to 11 personality talk show, and today also we have invited a prominent and an eminent person who has had a humble beginning, but today who occupies a top seat not only in one company, a group of companies, who is also an entrepreneur, a businessman, and also a professional in the financial industry who has more than 20 years of experience in the financial services sector in Sri Lanka. Let me introduce you to him. He is Mr. Janaka Ratnayaka, the chairman of Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka to start with. He is also the chairman of Merchant Credit of Sri Lanka and so many companies of which he is the chairman. Mr. Ratnayaka, we are glad to have you at the show, and we first of all we welcome you to the round table.
Thank you, Mahesh.
Well, as I said, you are the chairman of the Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And he is the also the chairman of the Merchant Credit of Sri Lanka, MBSL Savings Bank, MBSL Insurance Company Limited, City Housing and Real Estate Company. And he is also the chairman and managing director of CIL Group in his private capacity, which includes Rent a Comp Services Private Limited, Computer Care Private Limited. He is also director of the Lanka Securities Private Limited, Srilanka Investment Company, and Trillium Condominium Limited. And most of these companies under Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka were expanded under his guidance once he took over as the chairman of the Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka. So many things to talk about, and something that really really striking is that how can a single person, an individual, manage his time 24 hours to manage all these entities in an efficient manner. So all these things are going to be addressed to, are going to be spoken about in this roundtable edition. So as we start off with Mr. Ratnayaka, I would like to get back to your school days, your early beginnings, which was in Kandy, and you schooled in Dharmaraja College. So let's start from there.
Yeah, I am from Kandy. To be very specific, that I am from Ampitiya, and there's a village called Dambavela.
Okay.
I studied at Dharmaraj College and came to the University of Sri Jardhanpura, that is in early 80s.
Your family background, about your parents?
My parents are still living in Kandy, and I have two brothers and one sister. They also live in that area, but I came to Colombo in 1983 and I never went back.
You never went back?
In the sense I went visited my parents, you know, on and off. But I found my living in Colombo. I feel very comfortable in Colombo than in Kandy.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe a bit strange, but I feel that, you know, the people who come from up country always want to go back. But in my case, when I pass maybe Kalani, I feel really comfortable, you know.
Oh really?
Yes.
I think you're one of the very few persons whom I have met who come from Kandy and say that, you know, when you come to Colombo, when you pass Kalani Bridge, you feel you're back home or you're comfortable.
Yes, I feel
because
homely.
I'm from Kandy, and like still when I go back to Kandy and when I climb the Kadugannava slope, Kadugannava hill, like you know, as I change the gears of my car, as I pass the police station of Kadugannava, I really feel comfortable, like back home. So does that mean that you don't miss Kandy?
I really like to live in Colombo. You know, I like this, you know, the environment.
You like the environment.
Yes.
About your parents, you said they are public servants.
My father was working for Petroleum Corporation, and he retired almost, I think, 15 years back. Yeah. Now he is into his retirement.
Well, before I you know, came to this show, I called actually one of your friends, and he basically kind of cracked a joke saying that you were last in the class up to grade 8. So maths, science and English subjects were the most scary subjects for you. Is that true?
I think almost every subject. But I had almost 8 subjects that I was very weak, they said. Yeah, maybe I used to have a slot almost 40 plus.
40 plus.
That is, you know, until I did my O level. I can still remember that my brother, who's 1 year elder to me, got through his O level. The day that I determined that I also should get something more than him. And in the same time, I happened to go to visit University of Peradeniya with my father. He was working close proximity to University of Peradeniya. One day I happened to go. I saw the real life inside. That day I thought that I really must go to university. From that day I changed my life. When I did my O levels, A levels, I was the first in the class. Nobody could come closer to me. I kept that record, getting almost every year the best student in commerce stream, getting presents from the, you know, then the presidents, almost 2 years. I was the best in commerce A levels.
So the change took place when you visited the University of Peradeniya.
Yeah, yes. I really felt that I should go to university. From that day, no turning. Turning, that I can remember still that I have been, studying almost 10 plus hours a day.
10 plus hours a day.
Yes, plus my, usual studies.
Well, there was another stumbling block that you kind of got rid of, that you kind of rectified as a youth, which was the communication barrier that you had. You were not good in
Yeah,
English
because I
particularly.
felt that when I was schooling until O level I was not interested. A level I was very studious, and my aim was to come to the university, and I neglected maybe the second language, English, which was not, I felt, very important. But when I came to Colombo, even after completing my degree, I didn't realize that is important. But at one point I felt English is must, because we need to interact with people. Without that, and again I got exposure into computer industry, that where English is
It's a must.
a must. And again, it is not a major thing that if somebody really wants, not only English, that I speak Russian as well, because I was in Russia for 2 years while I was undergraduate at the University of Vajanapura. I can still speak up to
Russian
some
language.
extent Russian language as well. So if somebody wants to learn any language at any stage of life, it's possible. It's a
Yeah.
matter of effort that you put.
I mean, I agree with you, Mr. Ratnayaka, but we see that there's a big lacuna of English-speaking professionals in Sri Lanka's present economy, especially for the job opportunities available. The youth really do not take to learning the language. Maybe in compared to 30-40 years back, there were enough number of people who could speak English. And in the same coin, the government has introduced many government in office, and the authorities have introduced many programs to improve the level of the language, the second language of the youth. What effective measures further can be adopted?
If you look at the history, what happened was like certain politicians made few mistakes, and without recognizing the international language. But this is the time that again the politicians have changed it.
Yeah.
Now they have understood the importance of the language, the foreign language, plus the IT.
Yeah.
These two go hand in hand, and I think that if you look at the English education, and we take our primary, secondary and tertiary education in Sinhalese, but certain universities have introduced English, plus certain schools are catering to that particular language, but since there are not enough professionals, as you rightly mentioned, and they could not continue. And English is a must, because we need to interact with our outside world, and you can't compare the Sri Lanka is like Japan. People say that when you talk about language, that Japanese do everything
in Japanese language.
Japanese language.
Yeah.
But this is a developed nation,
Yeah.
so they have everything. But in a tiny country, being part of emerging country, that we need to interact with people, we need to get a lot of things from outside. Therefore, the English is a must. You must learn, and it is easy to learn. It's not English is that you should not be like to talk like a foreigner,
Yeah.
But if I can effectively communicate, that is more than enough.
Yeah.
You take the dialect everywhere in the world, the way that people speak. Japanese speaks English in their own different dialect. As long as I communicate to you effectively, that is what matters. You don't need to speak like English people.
This is one of the pathetic situation when it comes to the English language professions in Sri Lanka, because some of the people use English as not as an instrument, but they use it as an
icing on a cake.
icing on the cake, and maybe like a status symbol. So that has basically created a huge gap between those who can speak English and those who cannot speak English. One of the dilemma, especially the undergraduates, the graduates who come from the state sector universities faced with. However, you are also a graduate of University of Sri Jayawardena in Public Administration, and believe me or not, Mr. Ratnayaka, that you are the fourth